Every heroic journey has sacrifices. Every person has moments in their life where they have to make tough decisions.
It's intense. It's emotional.
Hard fights and bitter losses and stuff.
Something about making the decisions, right or wrong, good or bad.
So, how do you want to do this?
We're here today to talk about some Wildemount adventure. Michael, you have been sharing a bunch of really fun stuff on the D&D Beyond website. We've been looking back at Explorer's Guide to Wildemount as we get excited for Critical Role Call of the Netherdeep to come out. And I was curious if you could help me out. Let's say I am a traveler and I would like to learn a little bit more about Wildemount. And I'm thinking I might like to go vacation in Xhorhas. Michael, what can you tell me about Xhorhas?
Well, first, I do have to ask you, are you a citizen of the Dwendalian Empire?
For the purposes of this first answer, why, yes, I would like to see more. How's that going to go for me?
Okay. You might have to sign a few NDAs here before I can kind of jump into Xhorhas. If you're not aware, in Wildemount, Xhorhas and the Dwendalian Empire aren't exactly friends. So there's quite a bit of conflict there, and you'll kind of see if
Travel advisory.
yes, exactly. So if you are a Dwendalian Empire traveling, maybe keep that to yourself, right?
Okay. So
So
I'm definitely not, and I'm not just pretending not to be for the purposes of this next question. I'm totally from around here. Tell me about where I'm already from.
well, I think the first place that I want to take you is to the City of Beasts, also known as Sarius. This is a gorgeous city, and it's kind of a melting pot of cultures. So in Xhorhas, you have the Kryn dynasty. Think of them as the big guys at the top who are trying to unite all of the people of Xhorhas together. Asarius is kind of their first effort to bring people together in a single city. And so you have a lot of neighborhoods with where you can experience different cultures, different types of foods, but you're also going to see a very big military presence, which is why it's important you don't identify yourself as a Dundalian citizen, because this is where you're going to find a lot of beasts of burden. You're going to find a lot of weaponry, perhaps. And but it will give you a really good taste of the various people that live in the wastes of Xhorhas and call it home.
So, I mean, wastes of Xhorhas. Is that, are we talking literal? Is there a story behind that?
Yeah, so Xhorhas kind of has had a rough history. So if you're not familiar with the Calamity, there was essentially a point in history where there were these gods called the Betrayer gods who were kind of trying to destroy everything and rule over everything. And some of the other gods were like, no. And the people were like, no. And so there was this huge war between gods and people, and it just created this whole mess. And Xhorhas actually has the scars from the calamity as a result. So it's kind of a rough name, but if when you're actually exploring and going through the area, you'll see that it's actually a very vibrant region. It's just you're going to find a lot of artifacts from this previous war. You're going to find a lot of monsters that are kind of left over from this war, and people who are struggling to tap the very few resources that are in the region.
So essentially, as a travel guide, you have a rough time maybe selling us on the wastes of Xhorhas, but you're saying we should look past the name and there might be a little more to see.
What I'm saying is there's a lot of great history here. For example, the barbed fields. Sounds terrible. There's sinkholes, there's like tar pits. There's a lot of wandering monsters. Yes, it's dangerous, but it's also the place of the final battle of the calamity. So this is it. Like if you want to experience history, you want to go to the barbed fields. And I'm not saying you're going to find a vestige of divergence, which is an insanely powerful magic item that levels up with you. But if you were to find a vestige of divergence, wouldn't you find it in the barbed fields where people were fighting years and years ago?
The travel agency does not guarantee you will find any incredibly powerful souvenirs. Mhm. You cannot be responsible for your use of them if you do. Mhm. But good tip, good tip. Before we, that's it's sort of like a shopping guide, really. Just be careful where you dig. Exactly. Um.
Yeah, but if you want an
Uh.
area that's maybe a little safer, we could take you to the Dreammoth Ravine. So
Hmm.
that's in the far south. And you're going to find less of an influence from the Kryn dynasty in the far south because their influence is more in the north and the central region. And if you're if you've heard of Vox Machina, it's this adventuring group from far off lands in Taldore. Um, there's a little bit of history here in Dreammoth Ravine, and that is there used to be this floating city of Draconia that was destroyed by I want to say a clan of dragons called the Chroma Conclave. So they destroyed the city. The city crashed to the earth, and it crashed into the Dreammoth Ravine, right? So when we go there, when we stop by there, if you like to go, if you want to go check out some caves, you may find artifacts from Draconia. But if you don't want to, there's a lot of really great sites to see there where you're going to find griffins and other flying beasts in their natural habitat. And although it's not going to really be part of the tour, if you really wanted to wander off on your own, maybe you have a teleport spell handy, you can teleport further south to, I'm going to butcher the name, and I apologize, Zerzith Kitril, and that is a city that's been built into the ravine by survivors of Draconia.
A worthy visit, certainly. Now, if I want to skip that part, maybe like for I got my history Jones in the barbed for Pete's sake. Barbed fields. I wanted to call them barbed woods for some reason. See, this is why I'm taking notes for my trip. What is the Iothia moorland?
So the Iothia moorland, I believe, is more in the central part of Xhorhas, and this is where you're going to find rolling hills. You're going to find lots of different environments, marshlands and grasslands, a little bit of desert as well. There's a lot to be found here if you are searching for food and other resources, but I don't recommend we stay very long because the problem with the moorlands is that there are roving clans that journey through here. There's also cyclops, and sometimes I've clashed with them on these tours. They don't really like it when people stop to take pictures. So I think this is the kind of region that you're going to just be traveling through to get between some of the finer locations, in my opinion, in Jorhas.
All right. Speaking of potentially a final location, what can you tell me about Jigao?
Okay, I love Jigao. So this is a it's a coastal town closer to the north, and this is where you're going to get your really nice fine seafoods. It's a largely goblinkin and orc town, so if you think goblins are really cute like I do, you're just going to be loving it. You're going to be loving it. It's also the town itself is comprised of numerous fishing villages, so kind of like the city of Beasts, it's an amalgamation of different people.
I'm gonna say sounds like there's
And
some delicious food here. Any
yes,
place with that
yes,
much fresh seafood.
this is where you would want to go to the meat waters if you want to get some good food. That's where you're going to find your local delicacies. But another cool thing about Jigao that's really noteworthy is that there is this area within the city called the Jumble. And essentially, you have all of these homes that are built atop what are known as horizon back tortoises. These are ginormous creatures. If you're familiar with dragon turtles, dragon turtles? Yes, dragon turtles. Yes,
Those are
the
a thing.
dragon of the sea, the very big guys that eat ships, they're about the same size. If horizon back tortoises are about the same size, if not bigger. So these are gargantuan, to be very specific. And I think this is what really makes the city so unique is that you do have these homes that are built atop these mobile creatures, right? They're going to get up and sometimes, like if you get someone's address, you could go to the address and suddenly you find out it's across town because the Horizonback tortoise was like, "Nah, I'm good here. I want to get some sunlight over there."
So Jigao, a city on the move.
Yes. Although, although I have to add, that if you want a city that is entirely on the move, because Jigao is pretty stationary, you'll want to go to Erzin, and that is directly west of Jigao. And this is well, it's west of it if it's west of it, right? On the map, there's a spot in the northwest where you'll find Erzin. But the city itself is completely mobile. So who knows? Maybe you'll go to the spot on the map and it's not there.
That's why we employ the trusty tour guides of your agency to let us know crucial updates like where is Erzin today. Uh, so once we moved on, had our fill of Jigao, tell me a bit about Risona.
So Roshana, I don't know how to say it. I'm so sorry.
I think
I think
Risona.
it's Roshana.
We'll go with. Okay,
Roshana? Okay. Well, I'm gonna go with one, and y'all can yell at me in the comments if you want. So Roshana is gonna be the main stopping point. This is the basically capital city of Xhorhas. If you like the Kryn dynasty, this is gonna be your home. This is where the the top leaders of Xhorhas are going to be found. So the really wonderful history behind Roshana is that this used to be the stronghold of the betrayer gods. It was formerly known as Xhorhas. So kind of has a really dark history. But after the calamity, there was a group of drow or dark elves who abandoned the Underdark, came up to the ground to the ground level of the world.
surface. Yeah,
The surface. Thank you.
to the
The
lobby of the
surface.
world.
I'm good with words. And they took Gordronis, completely redid it, built an entire city on top of it, Roshana, and then it has become a base of their operations. So what's really beautiful about Roshana is that the Drow have learned and implemented magic to effectively create a near eternal night over Roshana because their eyes still can't stand the sunlight. There will be periods that you will find the city is bathed in sunlight, and I believe this is during religious periods itself. But chances are, if you go to Roshana, it's going to be night the entire time there, and you're going to find beautiful gem-like temples to the Luxon there. You're going to find an underground area which has edible mushrooms. You're going to find underground farmlands and just all manner of just beautiful creations by the Drow and other individuals that live in the city.
Sounds like an amazing centerpiece for me. Definitely not a citizen of the Dwendalian Empire to go visit. Mm, Get my Kryn Dynasty in. Speaking of beautiful jewels, what can you tell us about the Vermilog Wildwood?
Okay, so when I first started researching this, I was so excited because I have seen this artwork before on the site and I absolutely loved it. I thought at first that it was artwork of the Feywild, and then once I actually started looking into the Vermilog Wildwood, I found the artwork itself. I was like, "Oh, that's strange. I wonder if this has any connection to the Feywild." It does not. It is just a really
Unless at your table it
beautiful.
does. Side note.
Yeah, yeah. All of these details, by the way, this is all like if you decide like Roshana's, completely underground instead of above ground, you could do that. I'm just kind of giving you the base knowledge here. So the Vermilog Wildwood is really, really beautiful itself, but it is incredibly deadly. So in Xhorhas, the Vermilog Wildwood is like the main source of lumber in the region. If you haven't caught on, there's not a lot of resources in Xhorhas. Among them are trees. So a lot of folks come to the Wildwood to get their lumber, or to gather other resources. But the area itself is very dangerous. It's specifically known for giant spiders and all sorts of creatures from the that have survived the calamity over time. So if you're going to go here, don't go in there.
Stand near the woods. Paint
Exactly.
beautiful pictures of the woods, and then get away from the Vermilog Wildwood. Uh, Now, this has been an amazing tour. Is there anything else that you would maybe add to our list of destinations?
Yes, if you're down for a little dangerous journey, I would recommend the Brokenville Marsh. It's actually, if you're looking at the map of Xhorhas, it's Erzin, the mobile city, which is built atop entire Urzine is built entirely on top of horizon-back tortoises. If you're looking at the map, it's the city is in the Brokenville Marsh. So what I didn't mention about Erzin is that it's basically a mobile military unit. It's these are horizon-back tortoises that are used for war in some cases, and the individuals who live in the city are also warriors of Roshana. So they are commonly found in the Brokenville Marsh, which historically has been an area that has seen a lot of battles between Xhorhas and the Dwendalian Empire. If you're looking at the map itself, you'll notice that it's running right along the border. So if you're perhaps a necromancer and you're in need of dead bodies, this is where this is where you would find them. If you
You offer some
are
very
a half
specialized tour packages, I've noticed.
yes. Yeah. Well, we have we have tour packages that are just like stay in Roshana forever because it's perfectly safe here. Don't tell the Dwendalian Empire I told them that because they will not like me and they will not let me go back home. But the Brokenville Marsh, if you're a halfling, is a little treacherous. It's a marshland, so there's going to be a lot of deep waters there. But you will find a lot of abandoned military equipment there. You'll find a lot of dead bodies. You might find lots of monsters. I personally think that that region is ripe for undead. So maybe that's something to look out for.
Noting that down. Thank you so much for these excellent travel tips. If you happen to be heading in the region of Xhorhas, and if you are planning to pick up Critical Role Call of the Netherdeep, there is a chance that you might see some of these lands on your journey, because we know some things about how that still very mysterious adventure is going to unfold. So we have been enjoying taking tours through the Explorer's Guide to Wildemount to familiarize and re-soak ourselves in the world of Exandria in preparation for that adventure.
It's D&D.